For countless generations, humanity has gazed into the night sky, searching for planets, mysterious signals, and any signs of the unusual among the stars. Our deepest curiosity has always been drawn toward those rare and extraordinary moments when something in the vastness of space behaves in a way that defies the familiar rules of nature. Now, with the remarkable capabilities of the James Webb Space Telescope, we might finally have stumbled upon exactly that. What began as a routine observation of a distant object, the third interstellar visitor ever detected passing through our solar system, known as 3A Atlas, has rapidly evolved into something far more puzzling, darker in implication, and potentially revolutionary for science. Out in the frigid reaches of space, far beyond Mars where the sunlight fades into emptiness, the telescope captured something entirely unexpected. It was not just ordinary cosmic light reflected off ice or rock. It appeared to be artificial, a glow that behaved nothing like any comet or asteroid we've ever studied. Its luminous signature broke every known pattern of how light scatters, bends, or reflects off natural surfaces. It moved with a precision and consistency that physics cannot yet explain, and now astronomers and astrophysicists around the world are facing a question that both excites and terrifies them in equal measure. What exactly is 3E Atlas? The more we learn, the more unsettling that question becomes. The object first appeared as a faint, almost insignificant speck drifting slowly through the darkness, but its motion was unusual, and it didn't follow the familiar gravitational paths that define the movement of most bodies within our solar system. It was immediately clear that this was no local visitor. Whatever force had propelled it across the galaxy originated far beyond the influence of our sun. Something or someone had hurled it through space, and now it had arrived quietly and deliberately in our cosmic neighborhood. Initially, scientists treated it as a curious oddity, much like the previous interstellar travelers Oumuamua and Borisov. But from the very first images, there was something deeply unsettling about 3A Atlas. Unlike other extrasolar objects, its brightness was extraordinary. Not simply reflective, but unnaturally stable and intense. The level of light it emitted didn't match its estimated size or composition. It wasn't merely reflecting sunlight like rock or ice would. Instead, it shone with a strange, unwavering glow that hinted at mechanisms far beyond natural explanation. As the data continues to pour in, one haunting question echoes louder than ever. A question humanity has asked since we first looked up at the stars. Are we truly alone? Its glow behaved in ways no comet or asteroid ever should. Instead of dimming as it drifted farther from the sun, or flaring with bursts of brightness when dust and ice vaporized into gas, it remained eerily constant. Ordinary comets are known to suddenly shine more intensely when solar heat transforms their frozen layers into clouds of vapor. But this one was different. Its light refused to change, holding steady as though powered from within, as if it carried its own hidden engine. That unsettling detail drew the attention of observatories across the globe. Soon, telescopes from every continent were turned toward it, and finally, the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the cosmos, was brought into the investigation. Webb, orbiting silently a million miles beyond Earth, was built with a singular mission: to pierce the bright glare of stars and expose what lies hidden in the blackness of space. It sees not invisible light, but in the deep spectrum of infrared, uncovering heat and energy patterns invisible to the human eye. Scientists hoped it would finally untangle the mystery surrounding the strange traveler. When its gaze locked onto the object, known at first as Comet 238P/Reed, researchers anticipated clarity. Instead, the telescope delivered findings that only deepened the mystery, turning questions into unsettling possibilities. The data revealed something no one expected. Heat was radiating directly from the object's core, not from sunlight bouncing off its surface. This was not the familiar brightness of icy dust reflecting starlight. It was something else entirely. The source of the glow appeared to be internal. The thermal maps captured by Webb didn't resemble the even, natural heating of comets. Instead, they displayed patterns of faint pulses, irregular but eerily rhythmic, repeating in cycles as though obeying a hidden mechanism. These strange pulsing signals were unlike anything observed in the natural universe. They suggested a structure, a design, or at the very least an intentional rhythm beyond mere coincidence. Experts scrambled to find an explanation. Some proposed unusual but natural theories: radioactive materials hidden deep within, friction from underground layers grinding together, or the presence of exotic elements not yet studied. But one by one, these ideas collapsed as more observations contradicted them. Nothing in physics or chemistry could explain explain what Webb had seen. That left a possibility no one wanted to consider: the consistency of the pulses, the internal heat, the refusal to fade or flare like a comet should. All of it pointed to something deeply unsettling. The object might not just be a lifeless wanderer from another star system. It might carry its own energy, its own source of power, as though it were built for a purpose we have yet to understand. As data from observatories around the world was combined, a clearer image of 3IE Atlas began to emerge, and it was nothing like any object we had seen before. Its movement through space was far too precise to be accidental, almost as if it was intentionally guiding itself and making small course changes as it interacted with gravitational fields. Its rotation was unusually stable, not tumbling or wobbling like natural bodies tend to do. Even more unusual, it lacked the classic tail that comets form when nearing the sun, suggesting it might have some kind of shell or outer layer protecting it from the intense heat. Then came the most controversial discovery of all. Parts of its surface reflected light with near-perfect efficiency, similar to polished metal rather than rock, ice, or dust. This revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If the object was metallic, structured, and capable of producing energy, it could not be a naturally formed body. That meant it might be something built: a probe, a signal device, a spacecraft, or possibly even an artifact from an intelligent civilization. The possibility that it was some form of alien technology was no longer just a wild theory. It was being discussed seriously, even in private communications between scientists and space agencies. But perhaps the most compelling clue was not its shape, motion, or surface. It was its light. Detailed analysis revealed that the light from 3IE Atlas was confined to a narrow, controlled range of wavelengths. Instead of a broad reflection of sunlight, it emitted a specific, regulated signal, much like the light produced by LEDs, lasers, or advanced communication systems. The colors of the light also matched frequencies commonly used for communication and navigation here on Earth. Even more curious, its brightness shifted slightly depending on the sunlight it received, as if something inside was actively adjusting it. It didn't flicker in a random way. Instead, it pulsed with a strange, uneven rhythm that suggested intent rather than chance. Scientists ran the data through signal analysis models, and while the results weren't fully clear, they were still intriguing. Some researchers believed the signals resembled binary code, while others thought they could be evidence of a rotating power source. But one conclusion became undeniable: this object wasn't simply drifting passively through space. It was doing something deliberately, and we were witnessing it in real time. As more data was gathered, teams from MIT and Harvard began studying the energy patterns from 3IE Atlas in detail. At first, the frequencies appeared random, like meaningless static, but with deeper analysis and advanced techniques, a pattern began to emerge. Beneath all the apparent noise, like a faint voice beneath the chaos, was a regular repeating signal, far too precise to be natural. It wasn't a recognizable computer language or any known method of human communication, but it clearly seemed intentional. Some scientists suggested it could be a message meant for another civilization. Others proposed that it was a data transmission being sent back to wherever the object originated. What unsettled everyone most was that the signal never changed. From the moment it was first detected, it remained constant, as if 3IE Atlas wasn't trying to speak to us at all, but to someone else who might already be listening. News of the discovery quickly reached top scientists and government officials. A confidential report circulated within NASA, and eventually word of it leaked to a journalist. The document revealed that high-level agencies were already collaborating with international space organizations to determine whether 3IE Atlas posed any kind of threat. Some experts believed it was completely harmless, possibly an ancient probe, centuries old, simply continuing along a predetermined course through the galaxy. Others, however, were far less certain. They raised troubling questions with no clear answers. If it's transmitting signals, who are they for? If it can emit light, does it also have the means to maneuver? And if it was intentionally sent here, what purpose does its presence serve now? The report even speculated, however unlikely, that 3IE Atlas might be doing more than just passing through. It could be observing planetary movements, monitoring electromagnetic activity, or even studying advanced civilizations. That possibility caused deep concern, because if the object wasn't alone, whatever sent it might eventually arrive as well. Further analysis of the object's light led to an even more astonishing theory. It might not only be emitting energy, but also harvesting it. Subtle changes in its brightness as it approached the sun, combined with the lack of evidence for chemical propulsion, hinted that it could be equipped with solar collectors or some kind kind of hidden light-absorbing system. Lowe and several other scientists proposed that the surrounding dust cloud could serve a dual function. If this was true, it meant the object might be capable of gathering sunlight to sustain itself indefinitely. In that case, 3IE Atlas could be a self-sustaining spacecraft, refueling as it traveled from star to star, designed to operate for eternity in the vastness of space. This theory aligns with existing ideas about how interstellar probes might operate. Such machines could remain dormant for centuries, only activating when they encounter a star system that captures their interest. If our solar system was enough to trigger its awakening, then the signal it was waiting for has been received. As global space agencies scrambled to understand the situation, one unsettling truth became clear: humanity is not ready. Despite decades of discussion about possible contact with extraterrestrial life, our political systems, scientific methods, and even philosophical perspectives are completely unprepared to grasp what 3IE Atlas might represent. No official statements were made, yet leaked documents from agencies in France, Japan, and Brazil all hinted at the same conclusion. This might be more than just an anomaly. It could be the start of a slow, deliberate form of first contact. And it wasn't happening like science fiction had taught us to expect. There was no dramatic landing, no sudden arrival, no clear communication. Instead, there was silence, light, and data. A quiet presence that kept the world watching. Online communities tracked its every move, but each piece of information raised more questions than it answered. If this was an attempt at communication, it was happening on their terms, not ours. The object's distant, silent behavior was unsettling, and perhaps that was the most frightening part. Its purpose might not be peaceful. It could be observing, studying, even spying, and it might already know far more about us than we realize. Then, just as scientists were beginning to believe 3IE Atlas was moving predictably, something unexpected happened. Its brightness suddenly increased in an instant. This wasn't a gradual rise caused by its distance from the sun. It was a rapid surge, immediately detected by the James Webb Space Telescope and quickly confirmed by ground-based observatories. Within less than 2 minutes, the object became nearly 40% brighter and then held that new intensity without fading. There was no ordinary explanation for this. There was no evidence of a collision, no signs of solar-wind interaction, and no fragments breaking away. It looked as though something or someone had deliberately activated it. The sudden burst of light also coincided with a noticeable change in its heat signature, almost as if internal systems had powered on. Some scientists proposed that the object might have become active either because it was near the sun or because it detected that it was being observed. If the bright flash was intentional, it seemed meant to draw attention. Shortly after this event, new calculations from multiple space agencies revealed something else alarming. 3IE Atlas was no longer where predictions said it would be. It had shifted position slightly, not by much, but enough to be undeniable. Gravity couldn't account for the change, and even the pressure from solar radiation, which can nudge lighter objects, wasn't sufficient to explain the movement. This alteration appeared deliberate and even more unsettling. The new course led deeper into the solar system, closer to Earth's orbit. The object wasn't simply drifting anymore. It had changed direction. Some researchers urged caution, suggesting it might be a miscalculation or a gravitational anomaly, but others believed it was a maneuver, a controlled adjustment unlike anything a natural object could do. And if 3IE Atlas was capable of steering itself even slightly, then it was no ancient relic. It was something active. We were now watching an object that seemed to be moving with intent. When it passed close enough to the James Webb and Hubble telescopes, scientists used advanced instruments to analyze its composition. What they discovered was highly unusual: traces of reflective metals, rare elements, and materials unlike anything known to exist naturally. Its makeup didn't resemble that of a typical asteroid or comet. Instead, it appeared engineered, or at the very least artificially produced under controlled conditions rather than formed by cosmic processes. Among the materials was something that could only exist under extremely strong magnetic fields or within highly specialized environments. This discovery led scientists to two possible conclusions. Either the object was unimaginably ancient, created thousands of years before humanity existed, or it was recently built by a civilization far more advanced than our own. Its composition revealed more about its origin than any signal it might transmit. Even if we never decoded a message, the object itself was undeniable evidence of artificial construction. As the evidence pointing to a non-natural origin grew stronger, governments and major space agencies began responding, quietly and urgently. Observatory networks enhanced their encryption, research teams were discreetly reassigned to new projects, and a sudden spike in satellite maneuvering was detected across several nations. Nations with space programs quietly began discussing potential threats. A leaked report from defense groups hinted that 3 Atlas might not be the only arrival and could actually be a scout. Its unusual form, steady rotation, and ability to operate across vast distances suggested it was built for long-term surveillance. If it was observing, what was it searching for? And even more unsettling, what could follow? Scientists at universities, observatories, and military centers started to share one chilling thought: we are not alone, and our first encounter might be an assessment rather than a friendly introduction. As concern grew, a daring team at the SETI Institute decided to take a step no one else would attempt. They sent a powerful radio transmission toward the location where 3 Atlas was believed to be. The message included basic mathematics, a list of elements, and simple human illustrations meant as a peaceful greeting. Days passed, then a week with no reply. Just as they were about to abandon the effort, a monitoring facility in Chile detected something unusual. The reply was faint, on the wrong frequency, and distorted, yet it clearly aligned with the timing of their message. It wasn't spoken words or a mere echo, it was a ping, a signal altered just enough to prove it wasn't a natural reflection. It had been processed and returned. But what unsettled the SETI team most wasn't the signal itself, it was the moment it appeared. The reply arrived exactly 72 hours after our message was sent, down to the second. This meant something not only received it, but calculated the delay and responded intentionally. After the ping was detected, telescopes everywhere began experiencing strange issues. The Webb telescope's heat sensors behaved oddly for the first time. Hubble's stabilizing instruments showed slight movements, even though it was locked on target. Ground-based telescopes had what first appeared to be software errors. Star charts were inaccurate, pixels were distorted in unexplainable ways, and data froze precisely when aimed at the three-eyed galaxy. But these malfunctions weren't random. They all occurred at the same moment, as if coordinated, as though someone didn't want us looking too closely. A theory emerged from a covert group within the European Space Agency. The object wasn't only sending signals, it was also interfering with ours, targeting specific systems. This changed everything. A casual visitor doesn't try to stay hidden, a spy does. If the object was controlling what we could detect and when, then we weren't observing it freely. We were only seeing what it allowed us to. Then, silence followed. Soon after the signal and the disruptions, online updates slowed, became restricted, and were eventually rerouted. Public access to information was cut off. The European Space Agency released a vague statement about repairing their instruments. NASA stopped discussing the situation entirely. Even reliable publications that had been covering 3i Atlas either halted their reports or published dull summaries with no meaningful details. Scientists were split. Some believed the agencies were verifying the discovery before announcing anything. Others feared something far more troubling, that the truth was already known and was now being deliberately hidden amid a flood of misinformation and speculation. What had once been a global mystery for scientists had become a controlled narrative. History shows that when authorities hide discoveries, the real story stays buried. In a final push to understand what they were observing, a group of astronomers and mathematicians turned to pattern analysis and probability. They stopped searching for a message and started looking for evidence of intent. That's when they uncovered the most disturbing detail. The object's path seemed ordinary, but when compared to planetary positions, it followed a Fibonacci spiral, a natural pattern seen throughout the universe. It also mirrored several methods humans use to communicate, and when it shifted course, flashed light, or sent signals, those actions followed prime number sequences. The odds of this happening randomly were nearly impossible. These patterns were chosen intentionally. This meant the object wasn't simply moving through space, it was moving with precise mathematics, as if it were following a chart or a schedule. Some thinkers quietly proposed a startling idea. This might not be a probe sent from another star. It could be a message, not expressed with sounds or symbols, but through deliberate actions. The first part of that message has just been understood. As patterns start to become clearer, one fact remains undeniable. The object known as 3 Atlas was far more than a wandering rock. Its unusual glow, the reply it sent, its rare materials, and its deliberate change in course all point to a chilling conclusion. We are not the only intelligent beings, and perhaps we were never meant to discover that. The James Webb Telescope, designed to study the earliest galaxies, may have glimpsed something designed to study us. This thing is ancient, purposeful, and observing us, not from deep space, but from near our own solar system. Still, there is no official statement. Agencies refuse to comment, and the truth remains hidden. It seems humanity is not considered ready, but we detected the light and followed its trail. Now comes the unsettling question: what happens next? Was 3 Atlas merely passing through, recording our presence before continuing on? Or was it the first of many, a scout waiting for a signal before others arrive? In the end, it may not matter whether 3 Atlas is a machine or something entirely different. What matters is that it came, noticed us, and responded. And now, in the vast and silent dark, something else might be watching the blue planet that called out first. Perhaps the countdown has already begun, and the universe is once again reminding us that we are not the watchers, we are the watched.